promoting this basic idea of young people gathering to discuss and debate, that is the thing that we cannot let pass away just because the leader of Turning Points USA was gunned down by an assassin. And I want to let you know that whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, whatever your belief is, I will fight for your right to speak your mind. We reject political violence, and we reject the crazy left-wing radicals that gunned down our friend Charlie Kirk. Let's talk to one another and not try to shoot each other down for disagreeing.
All right, let's jump back into our conversation. I mean, that sounds great, but it's not what his administration is actually saying and doing.
Do what I say, not what I do. I mean, again, 238 years we've had the Constitution and the First Amendment. Today, I think, is the slippery slope, getting ready to remove that tenet. It's going to be, you have the right to say what you want to say, piss me off, and I'll make sure your company does what they better do, or I'm going to stick something to them. That's what we heard.
I'm going to use my power in politics to tell people out there to write to your company and cause the threats and cause you to be taken off. And it's a mob mentality.
But this is what we're also seeing around tariffs. This is what we're also seeing with corporations. This isn't just the media. This is at every part of civil society and organizations and corporations. We saw it with law firms. They tried to silence them by doing executive orders against the law firms that he did not like. We've seen it with corporations with tariffs, where he dangles a tariff, something in front of them, and then does a carve out based on which corporation comes to the table and provides him what he wants. And so this is the way that Donald Trump gets what he wants. And now we're seeing it with the media.
You brought up, obviously, we've been discussing the First Amendment. I mean, there are also statutory issues here. I mean, you have the public interest standard from the Communications Act of 1934. The Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld the idea that Congress and the FCC have to enforce the public interest standard. And what does it say? Promoting civic discourse, educating the public, ensuring a diversity of voices. I think you could make a strong argument that Jimmy Kimmel wasn't doing any of that, nor was Colbert.
Scott,
for that
I'm
case.
not going to tell you anything you don't know here. You sometimes offend people. I hear about it on the socials. Do you think that you should then be held to the same standard that you're asking for, that if someone says that you're offensive, that you're not doing civic discourse, that CNN should kick you off? I'm not worried about you and that happening to you in the present regime, but I am worried about other people in this building.
Two things. We don't fall under the same statutory regime. A. B, I expect to get fired every day. This is a tough business. And if I were Jimmy Kimmel, I mean, I'm surprised that a guy who once wore blackface and caused large-breasted women to jump on trampolines lasted this long in the media business to begin with. He was long past his sell date, and the fact that he couldn't realize that and was going down this road of partisan hackery, being unfunny and demonizing.
And that's where people like Abby Phillip and Sinclair said exactly the same thing.
Why not allow the actual market to handle that?
I think the Sinclair, I think at Channel 12 in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, people up there said, enough of this. I don't want this. Those are the kind of affiliates that said, we don't want this guy on air anymore.
Why not let the actual
private market
handle it?
They did. Look at that letter.
Listen, you would have a stronger argument if a government official wasn't on, I don't even want to call it television, some kind of broadcast saying that he was going to get involved. That would be a stronger argument if they had not done that.
But if this letter had come out days later from Sinclair, they said it. They said it right now.
It's a weak argument when you've got the FCC chairman saying, I was going to get involved if they didn't do this.
But I point back to the affiliates out there made a clear. They've been saying this for quite some time. This was their opportunity to make their case compellingly.
But you admit that the FCC chairman does have a role in this public interest
situation. You know what? Hold on.
But make that role equal.
I'm just reading you the language.
I know, but make the role equal, Scott. Come on, man. You know I work with veterans all over the country. I work in stand-up for veterans. A large percentage of our homeless are veterans. We let a person on another network say it's time to involuntarily eject and murder homeless people just because they may be sick. Look, I'm working with veterans who have PTSD issues that are sick. So we should inject them and kill them?
And we should accept that?
It's horribly wrong.
And that same FCC person should have said, if you don't get this guy off, I got something for you.
Well, and also, for the media expert, I just want to ask you, if this were solely a business decision, wouldn't he have been canceled and not suspended? There's just a clear difference between him being canceled, but they didn't do that. They suspended him indefinitely. And to me, that signals that it was more because they were worried about the pressure and they're trying to figure out how to move forward.
It's the right question because when it came to Colbert, if it was such an awful business and he's number one in late night, why didn't you cancel it a year ago? Why now and why let it go on? If it's such an awful business, the truth is, you already said it, Abby.
Well,
all the broadcasters is awful business.
It's never the wrong day to stop losing money. I mean, they were taking a bath on that show.
Yeah,
I mean, they probably waited too long.
There's a difference between ratings and making money. But the larger issue, I think the intensity of this is all around the pushback that employers had over the last week from people that said outrageous things, and this drew more attention to it than anything else.
So at the same time that all this is happening, we have the Department of Homeland Security. Let me say that again. The Department of Homeland Security sending out a memo warning the media and members of the public to stop demonizing Trump and DHS, saying this demonization is inspiring violence across the country. Our ICE officers are facing a more than 1,000% increase in assaults against them. We have to turn down the temperature before someone is killed. This violence must end. Okay, first of all, why is DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, putting out something like that? And second of all, why are they warning people about saying things? Again, this is about speech, right? Like, are we talking about speech or are we talking about violence?
Except enforcement of law. So
are we talking about speech or are we talking about violence?
Right, but no, let's talk about this. So I flew out here today to be on your show, and I went through TSA. There are warnings all over TSA not to threaten people there, not to push back, not to say things about them. They don't say you can't back at home, but they say when they're doing their job, it is very clear.
Yeah.
So that's not
totally
freedom
different,
of speech.
Hold on a second.
And that's what I think they're talking about here. These are people doing their job, even if you don't like their job, threatening ICE officials.
A threat is not what I'm talking about here. Obviously, a threat is a threat. What they're saying is demonization is inspiring violence. So is demonization violence? Is demonization a threat? Or is it speech?
I think people can say what they want, unfortunately, but I do believe they're drawing attention.
Unfortunately.
Well, unfortunate in this case because you can say what you want, but if you're encouraging people to smash their cars through an ICE patrol, that is outrageous. Whether it's a local law enforcement, a sheriff's deputy, or ICE, just because you hate ICE doesn't mean you have the right to say.
Okay, let me ask you a very simple question.
You have the right constitutionally, but you shouldn't be doing that.
Is demonizing ICE?
I can call that out without canceling your free speech.
Is demonizing ICE violence?
No. But
okay, so then why on earth
in the same way, you can say the
department...
same thing about your local police officer. That's not doing it. But it is something you should speak out against.
Hold on.
That's what they're doing.
I just want to keep it super simple for people to understand. Is demonizing ICE, is saying abolish ICE, is that violence?
Well, it goes beyond that, doesn't it?
No.
That's what she's asking.
I don't
Answer
want to. Let's do a step-by-step here, okay?
They're not saying we're going to lock you up. They're saying we are asking people not to demonize these officers.
My free speech friends, do you believe that people should be chilled for their speech because it might encourage violence or
Nobody's
because they are
saying they're arresting them. They're just saying, in the same way that when there's police out in the street, I'm saying do not attack police. If you're saying it's okay to say we should attack police, then that's not a free speech debate. That's a crazy debate.
Why do you keep conflating speech and actions? Why?
Why what?
Why do you keep conflating speech and actions? If somebody attacked police, that is an attack. That is not speech. That is violence.
If I go out and don't attack them, but I tell people I want people to go across the street and attack the officers over there, I'm not making them do that, but that's free speech.
Threats,
but that's poor speech.
I don't know how many times I need to say this. Threats are threats. Violence is violence. Speech. Is it speech or is it not speech?
Of course it is.
Can you demonize...
But free speech doesn't mean free of consequences.
Can you demonize a police officer? Can you demonize the president? Can you do any of those things in the United States of America, Scott?
Well, you can. I think on the case of DHS, and certainly people do, I mean, I don't know why we're so surprised. An institution is defending its employees. We have people who go on television every single day and call them Nazis, the Gestapo, terrorists. I've heard these words used at this table. Concentration camps.
And
at the same time, they're allowed to do it. But there is a 1,000% increase in violence against ICE. Do you not see the connection?
I'm glad that you've acknowledged a simple fact. That if you say that you care about free speech,
well, of course they're allowed to do it. The question is, should they, or
they're either
is it
allowed
good?
to do it or not. And I have questions about what is the Department of Homeland Security expecting to happen here? What are they involved in that for? If it's a law
They're
enforcement
defending
issue,
their people.
if it's a law enforcement
That's
issue,
not defending.
shouldn't that come from the DOJ?
Well, it's also not. It's not defending your people. I will say Donald Trump spent.
You agree with it?
Hold on,
Once people
Donald
call
Trump.
him the Gestapo?
Hold on, Donald Trump spent the last 4 years going after FBI agents and prosecutors for the search of Mar-a-Lago. What happened? There was actually, they tried to hurt FBI agents. We had to put security details on FBI agents that went and searched Mar-a-Lago, on the prosecutors that worked on that case. What was the response? The response was, these are career prosecutors making decisions based on the facts and the law. They have dedicated their lives on this, to this cause. We did not ask for people to stop talking about them. If there are threats, I agree, they should be prosecuted. And you know what? On January 6th, we did prosecute those threats, and not only threats, but actions. And the president pardoned them. And there's something called deterrence when it comes to law enforcement. If you want people to stop going after officers, ICE agents, any federal official, then you put the people who caused the crime in jail and leave them in jail, and you don't actually pardon them. So if Donald Trump and DHS actually cared about protecting our federal law enforcement, then they would have never pardoned those people in the first place.
I mean, I would also have expected that Donald Trump would not have, as Sochi said, if this were really an issue about attacking law enforcement, Donald Trump has certainly attacked law enforcement.
We keep doing this defer and deflect. The bottom line
how
is
it a deflection?
Well, I'm saying you're saying, well, he did this doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I'm just
because
asking
there's a
for.
standard there.
I'm
saying hold him to the same standard that he holds others.
I'm saying the standard is right now. We should be defending everyone in law enforcement, that includes ICE officers.
Do we believe the thing or do we not? Is really what I'm asking, right? Like on some things, and this is why the speech issue is at the heart of all of the conversations that we're having. Do we actually believe it in or do we not? And I asked yesterday our liberal friends when back in the day. Everything was about cancel culture and about safe spaces and about words being violence. Yeah. This is probably a moment for a lot of liberals to think, okay, actually, maybe that didn't make a lot of sense because words are not violence. Violence is violence, okay? But we have to be consistent. It's not just when it's directed at Charlie Kirk. The president directs all kinds of negative words at people every single day. And he has a right to do it, not just because he's the president, but because he's a citizen of this country. So where do you draw the line? Are you going to draw it anywhere?
I think free speech should be as free and wide as possible. But I also think you don't do it without consequences. If people do things and say things that they're legally under the Constitution able to do, doesn't mean I can't say you're wrong. Doesn't mean I can't point attention to that.
So
and
cancel culture is all good and well.
Cancel culture just a couple weeks ago was happening against conservatives on campus.
Listen, I guess now cancel culture is fine.
The law of the land.
Do you agree with the people who are demonizing the ICE agents?
Listen,
do you think it's good to do it?
I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
I don't have to agree with it.
So you can understand why they would have an opinion about it.
As Supreme Court Justice Alito said, you know, our First Amendment is such that I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it to protect your right to say it.
Can I also say,
I'm not saying they can't say it.
I'm saying as an employer or a neighbor, I don't have to agree with it just because you do it.
When the government puts the force of the United States of America on its citizens, it should be, for very good reason, it should not be in violation of the document, the Constitution, which is literally on this very day.
Well, but the DHS secretary is also contributing to some of the attacks on ICE agents. She is posting videos of these ICE agents arresting people on social media all of the time. Can I tell you, I have never seen a head of an agency do that and put their own officers at risk the way that Kristi Noem has done.
So
and I think that is
the TV
irresponsible.
Show Cops for decades was doing that to law enforcement.
I'm
That's
not.
essentially what we're doing. We're sending a message.
I am saying in this threat environment, you should not be putting the faces of ICE agents.
Okay, all right.
It's been like that for the last decade, Scott.
Listen,
they've had 1,000% increase in attacks on ICE agents
since January 2nd.
You brought up cops, but look, first of all, cops is a TV show, so there's consent involved. But secondly, those officers, and we've talked about this before, on cops, we're not hiding their faces. They're carrying out the law, just like police officers all across the country. responsible to their communities, showing their faces.
And if there was a surge in attacks against law enforcement in that department, I'd go in there and say, please don't attack them. Please don't do
The Department of Homeland Security has made it their policy that they want to make ICE enforcement almost like a TV show, except with no accountability. That's their choice to do. But I think Sochi makes a fair point, which is if they are so worried about the attacks and the threats against these ICE agents, why are they fighting so hard to publicize it, to make it seem like a video game, to make it seem like some kind of action movie when it's actually real life?
And define attack. Sometimes it is merely protest. Sometimes it is walking behind armed Army officers in Washington, D.C. playing the Star Wars bad guy theme. And that is seen as an attack. And I'm going to call the police on you.
That is not an attack.
That's free speech. Well, I don't know what I don't see the transparency of what the attacks are.
I interviewed the head of ICE just a few days ago, and he was detailing for me the violent attacks that ICE agents are facing. They're being doxxed. Their families are being doxxed. You cannot trivialize the threat that these
let's
people...
go to doxing here.
Work
They should have
the
their names and their badge numbers out. Doxing is a different matter. They should be accountable for who they are and what they do.
Should their children's schools be put on the internet? Should their home addresses be put on the internet?
That's what has happened to FBI agents over the last 4 years because Donald Trump was attacking them because he was indicted twice for crimes that he committed. And he believes that he is above the law.
You're okay with it?
So instead, I'm not okay with it. I was not okay with it whenever they were attacking FBI agents. I'm not okay with attacking ICE agents. What I am okay with is making sure that people understand that ICE agents are not only ripping apart families, but they're going to schools and they are showing up at schools.
So you are okay with it?
I'm telling you, I've never said that is not.
You're saying that there's some justification for this.
No. I am telling you,
she's not okay.
I am not okay with it.
But then she immediately pivoted to saying the things she's mad about.
But what I will talk about and what I will continue to bring to light is the fact that ICE agents are separating families. They detained 2 Americans in Chicago just yesterday. So, I mean, these are what ICE is doing. I think shining a light on their work and the terrible things that they've been doing.
Shining a light on their work.
Yes, accountability.
Putting their home addresses on the internet, putting their children's school on the internet.
I never believe in that. I never believe in that. As someone who worked in the federal government and has seen
maybe the theme for tonight is okay. Let's talk about intellectual honesty. So, Scott, you are not okay with people's families being doxxed, them being named and harassed online, correct?
ICE agents, of course not.
No, but anybody. It only applies to ICE agents in your mind.
Well, we were discussing the DHS statement. You put it on the screen. That's the debate we're having.
You're saying this is a particular concern for ICE agents. I understand that. But do you have a concern about it just generally?
Yeah, I think if people are out enforcing the law, doing their job, if they're government agents, their family should not be dragged into it.
So when judges are ruling on issues that pertain to this president, and the president and his supporters not only attack those judges, but their spouses, their children, putting their names and faces out there for the express purpose of getting their supporters to attack them, are you okay with that or not?
I don't agree with doxing anyone. And I don't know what judges you're talking about. I do think the president has a right to...
You don't know what judges I'm talking about? The judge in New York that dealt with the hush money case? You don't remember that?
Look, the president's going to express his opinions on the legal cases he's involved in, but I don't agree with doxing families. Listen, no, I don't agree with it at all.
Well, it happens. It happens when it's ICE agents, and it happens when it's judges that Trump doesn't like.
Are you using that to justify what's happening, guys?
I'm not justifying anything, except to say that sometimes this stuff seems so selective. You only care when it's your side of your team. Okay? And I get it. That's like an instinct that we have.
I just said I don't agree with doxing anybody.
Red shirt, blue shirt. But this is a society that we're living in where these things are happening. And it's not just happening against ICE agents. It's happening against judges. Judges have been killed.
Yeah.
Okay? In this country.
And somebody went to Brett Kavanaugh's house.
Conservative judges and other judges that are nonpartisan.
And why did that happen?
So
it's happened to
can we
multiple
keep the same energy or not?
Well, I mean, I don't know what you want me to do. You put up a thing about DHS. We're having a debate about DHS. Now you want to talk about judges. I just told you I don't agree with doxing anybody.
I think what I want people to say.
Criticize policies. They can criticize decisions. I don't think they should be targeting people at their homes. I don't think they should be doing the law enforcement, the judicial system.
Should they reveal their badges and their names when they're doing the government's work? Should they be accountable as public servants when they are doing this job, or should they be masked and anonymous?
Well, I think they should ultimately be accountable no matter what.
Okay, how are they held accountable if we don't know who they are?
Well, Under their
I don't want their families, but I want them. I'm paying for them with my tax dollars. They're doing things in my name as a citizen. They're doing it with a mask, never saying their name, never showing a warrant, never giving a badge number, never giving me any sense of who they are. They are masked mobs going after people and threatening them.
Well,
are you okay with that? Are you okay that
In the end, are they
officer,
enforcing the law?
if a cop stops you downstairs,
would
you want his name
violate the
and his
law?
badge
That's
number?
the decision. If they're doing
Sure.
that,
Okay.
I will tell you
Then
what.
What about ICE people? Shouldn't they be the same?
I'll tell you what I asked the ICE director about. I said, "What is with the mask?" He told me point blank, he does not like it. He does not really want them to have to do it, but he did acknowledge
He's
to
the
me.
boss.
He did.
All right,
He did acknowledge me.
Montel,
The
can I-
threat,
tell him
the
what
threat
to
levels
do?
against
Does
them.
he also have no
The
power?
threat levels
That's
against
what
them are huge. Are
ahead,
huge, and you're
Montel.
What
minimizing
your
it.
show is all about is about coming to a table and trying to have a discussion, putting out our viewpoints, and coming to some sort of common ground. I'm sorry. I don't believe there's really an attempt at common ground anymore. I think what we have an attempt at going right now is, starting today, we're going to see this First Amendment get eroded more and more and more and more. Period. That's what's about to happen.
Amen.
And what we've got to do is try to figure out a way that we can come to tables and actually have a real conversation about how do we bring this country back. I mean, I am so sick of the fact that for 22 years I wore a uniform to defend this thing called the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And right now, we're getting ready to pull that out. We're going to say, no, you know what? The First Amendment really only works for people who agree with me this way. If you don't agree with me, then I'm going to send in the ICE agent, or I'm going to send in somebody to quash your next deal. You know, we're on not just a slippery slope, but I'm telling you,
We're
like
at
a
the
90-degree slope.
well, that's the way it's been
All
on
right.
college campuses for decades. That's why we're
Well,
trying to reverse that. So we need to apply it across the board.
We do have to leave it there, everyone. Thank you very much for that robust conversation. We'll be back in just a moment.